If you are ready to create an entrepreneurial role for yourself or are working in a male-dominated industry and want to learn how to navigate a path to success, you will find today's show helpful and inspiring. Nicole Bluefort is a rising star in the greater Boston legal community. She's an experienced trial attorney who leads a 6-person, all-women law firm with offices in LYNN and Boston. Nicole is also a business consultant and revenue generator who focuses on the development of women entrepreneurs. She's recognized as one of the nation's best advocates by the National Bar Association and a 40 under 40 achiever by the Network Journal, as well as having been appointed by Governor Charlie Baker to the North Shore Community College Board of Trustees. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you for having me, Jen.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And I'm so excited in particular for this industry because if you were to ask 100 people what's the industry that is most definitely male-dominated, they would definitely say the legal industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you do this? How did you create an all-woman legal power team?
Well, you know, my story is very interesting. I was born and raised in the LYNN area. And then I decided I was going to go to law school, went to BC undergrad, went to Northeastern Law School, graduated from there in 2010, went the path that most law school students would take, which is either working for the government or working for the law firm kind of thing. And then what happened was I was working for the government for a couple years. It was supposed to be just a term position. And then once I finished my 2-year term position, I started putting out resumes and I says, you know, I'm going to go the safe route, you know, work for someone else. And then literally it's ironic that my story began with just taking a leap of faith and starting a law firm. So a lot of people do ask me this question, Jen, how did I get to an all-female law firm? I would say it just was by chance. Honestly, it was by chance. Yeah. The very first girl I hired, her name is Norelda Kanani. She was a bright, outstanding student in my my paralegal course I used to teach at North Shore, which I was just appointed by Governor Charlie Baker for. And she was just a hardworking student, and I started with her. And then as I was growing, which I talk about a lot in my consulting, is to make sure you're not taking on more than what you should. Yeah. Started to add on, you know, one by one. And then before I knew it, they all happened to be female. And it just, and what I kind of got nervous about it at first, because I said, you know what, would I end up attracting more females to the firm or males? Right. Or, you know, because I wanted to make sure I could cater to everyone. I wanted to have male and female clients. And actually our clientele has grown to be both 50%, honestly, pretty clear-cut female and males attracted to the firm. So I said to myself, you know what, why don't I stick with it? Because I look around and, as you mentioned, it's a male-dominated industry, and what I thought was going to be a disadvantage that we were all female actually turned into an advantage, Jen, because a lot of people just loved that. It just made us distinct.
Yes.
And although it's male dominated, it's also, I would say, in many ways hard to market yourself as a you know, entrepreneur that owns a firm, because there's a lot of lawyers out there.
Right.
And that's why a lot of lawyers end up with sometimes no jobs for a period of time, because there's just so many of us in here in the Boston area and such. So it just allowed us to be very distinct that we were all female.
It's such a tremendous story. I'm, you know, in when you talk about marketing yourself, you know, I've been to your website and your Facebook pages, and it's all about supporting women that are working with you as a leader within the legal and within the law industry. It is a challenge for, well, any industry. It's a challenge for a woman to be the business owner, to be the lead provider of services.
Yes.
To how do you deal with working with all women and running a successful business?
Well, I have to say, when I first started in the entrepreneurship, as I mentioned, I just didn't plan to do this. Yeah. And I thought that entrepreneurship was just going to be a challenge within itself. I didn't think that being a female in this male-dominated industry was going to give me any issues. So I guess to start with it, I would say that the first thing that I do to kind of encourage the women that work for me is, first I got to just take a look at showing them and demonstrating to them that I have done this. And one thing I make sure is that I encourage all the women that work for me to pursue whatever it is that they want to do. So one of the girl that I told you that was a student of mine, she is now studying for the bar exam. So go Nora, we hope that you make it.
Good.
So she started off from just being a paralegal to being a lawyer, to say, hey, you don't have to be just a paralegal if you don't want to. You can rise to the top and become a lawyer. So it's sometimes either through that, or if you're already an attorney at my firm, I really encourage continuing that legal education through what they call CLEs and things of that nature. So whatever I can do to help my ladies become more competitive, because that's sometimes what it is. It's showing other people, especially men, that you are as competent as they are.
Of course, girls can do it too.
Girls can do it too.
Yes. But you know, I don't think all women in leadership positions have that same mindset that you clearly have, where you understand what it is to be a woman within our society, with all the pressures and the influences that are happening around us. And you are saying and modeling the behavior of women are important to me. I know what it takes. I know the struggles that you're going to face, and I'm here to support you. And that's really how your business then launched from there. And we're going to talk about that in the second segment. But, you know, give yourself a lot of credit, because I don't think all women, it is a competitive nature, and you know, it's a competitive environment, and there's sometimes only room for a handful of women.
Yes.
And you say, forget that. I'm going to make my own, I'm going to create this pathway for women to be successful, and I'm going to help them. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to help them move forward. So
absolutely.
Yeah, congratulations in that. And you mentioned you've got 50% men and 50% women that are your clients.
Yeah.
So what do the women in particular, because we're obviously talking about women on this show.
Of course.
We love men. But, so what do the women come to as clients? What are some of their legal needs?
I'll be honest with you, same legal needs as men. I can't say it's really gender specific.
Yeah.
So a lot of we're considered a general practice firm, meaning we do a lot of different areas, but majority of our clientele, including women, come into the area of family law. So family law is divorces, child custody, child support. So if I could kind of focus on gender a little bit, I would say that's a lot of the issues facing women today. Either they're going through divorces, you know, the divorce rate unfortunately is very high. They're dealing with child support issues, custody issues. Either the marriage didn't work out, or they weren't married in the first place, and perhaps they need to get into some kind of parenting plan with the other spouse that they have. And then we also have the areas of estate planning as well. Again, not really gender specific, but a lot of females get into that as well. That's just a matter of planning for wills and trusts and healthcare proxies. We do criminal defense work, and criminal defense is also facing
Sure.
women. And that's actually how I got into criminal defense work, is with family law, which is interesting.
Okay.
A lot of disputes just happening with divorces, and you know, they're still living together, and it's a very angry time.
Tough angry time.
And it's just not men.
Yeah.
It can be you know, female as well. Sure. And I work with a lot of women that either have been abused, or very sensitive topics like that, and maybe I need to represent them with a restraining order matter, or maybe it needs to go to the next level, and maybe charges need to be pressed or something like that. So I help them with an application for criminal complaint.
Yeah. Do women feel as though they really have an ally? Like you would be able to have a different sense of compassion and empathy for a woman that is coming to you?
I'm actually very happy that you mentioned that to me, because it's not just about providing legal services. It's about, can you really listen to them? Can you really sympathize with them? And a lot of it is just not giving legal advice. It's really taking the time to listen to their story, because maybe someone else did it. And just taking the time to really listen to the struggles that they've gone through, and saying, you know, I'm a listening ear for you, and let me tell you what your options are, and being a team. So I like when because it's definitely a team. It's working together. They don't want anybody working against them. Right. And sometimes my clients come from other attorneys and say, you know what, I had this great attorney, either male or female, but I don't feel like they really took the time to listen to me. Yeah. And I always made sure when I was attracting clients for that reason, I says, you know what, I see that's so important. Sometimes in my back of my head, it's just winning, but sometimes it's not always about your success rate. It's whether or not you really take the time to listen to their problems, analyze it, and help them help them make the best choice. Ultimately, they need to make it, and I do what they tell me to do, ideally, but really listen and then help to map out a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C.
Yeah, or however many plans.
Oh, however many plans we have to do, or revamp the plan.
Okay, well, when we come right back, Nicole and I are going to be talking about how that listening skill that you just mentioned really influenced the creation of an entrepreneur coaching business that you're going to hear about next. So stay with us. Hey, I'm Jen Maceda, and welcome back to Woman2Woman today, where we're speaking with Nicole Bluefort. And in this segment, we just talked about your legal firm, where it's 6 amazing women that are working with you on this really incredible general practice team. Now we're going to talk about your coaching practice, and tell us how one kind of led into the other.
Well, as you mentioned, the law firm came first, and this is another avenue that I'd even anticipate getting into, but it was something I was doing and not taking the opportunity to realize I was doing it. So I would have people Facebook me, email me, say they want to do lunch, and I noticed it was just kind of professionals from across the spectrum. So not just lawyers, Jen, it was people from physical therapists were doing it, chiropractors, just asking entrepreneurship questions, because when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if I'm a lawyer, a doctor, do you know how to run a business? And there are some real fundamentals, some basics that are just important, again, across the spectrum. So it was getting so much that I was giving my time, which I love to give my time, I swear I do. But it was just so much that it was kind of taking away from my business that I said, there's got to be a way that I can do some kind of conference or do this in a way that I can help as many people as possible. So that kind of birthed the coaching that's a part of the law firm. So the first thing that I did do is, instead of offering the individual coaching, I wanted to start with a conference. So we had our very first conference in Boston. We hosted it at what's called the MCLE, which stands for Massachusetts Continuing Legal Education, but it just wasn't for lawyers, Jen. It was for everyone. It's just simply a venue to come, because in Boston there happens to be a lot of entrepreneurs. So what is exciting about the way I did my business conference, as opposed to a lot of the different business events that are out there that do the same thing, is it was very important for me to not be the only one bringing a perspective to this, because I'm not the only one that has a valuable experiences. A lot of people have valuable experiences. So when I was kind of mapping at to how I wanted to teach these women these the basics, the strategies of entrepreneurship, I said, what did I do to really be able to be successful? And that was one thing I did. I listened to a variety of different perspectives, some that were very young entrepreneurs, as well as those that are seasoned, if you will. The seasoned entrepreneur could tell you about all the battles, the struggles that they've been through, and how they ultimately succeeded. But it's very important to me to have some young kind of mentors as well, because, as those that are more seasoned, there's technologies, there's social media that they may not be as familiar with like a younger entrepreneur would. So what I did for my conference is, besides just having my perspective, besides just me being a speaker, I had a variety of just different women. And that brings me to why I kind of focus on women, is because of the kind of idea with my firm and how that attracted a lot of people. I says, I think that even like the legal industry, entrepreneurship is very much male dominated. And I think that women need a place to be able to feel kind of safe talking about different issues, and comfortable and really feeling like we need to empower ourselves. So we launched that first conference, and it was absolutely amazing. We focused on things from just the mindset to now we need to talk about a business plan and branding. We just did really a holistic approach that I don't know if a lot of conferences really touch on. Mindset before starting a business is everything. If you can't make ends meet, you gotta have your mind in the game, because being an entrepreneur is 24/7. You gotta wake up and breathe this stuff all the time.
Well, congratulations on bringing women together to talk about so many important things. I mean, it's amazing that you're not sticking to one. It's not that it's amazing is not the right term. It's inspiring that you did so much work in the legal field, but yet you recognize that there are these general practices that I can also share with women that are not in the legal field, and so that's really inspiring. If you were to, not to give away this coaching conference, but if you could share 3 things that female entrepreneurs should really, mindset you said, focus on something immediately that can help them to launch, let's say. Let's just talk about that.
Okay, so besides mindset, which again is extremely important, I think sometimes, I can't say it's just female, but males as well, is that we sometimes focus on the trends, Jen, of what's popular.
Okay.
Maybe it's helping women. I know there's a lot of business coaches out there, so that tends to be like a trend that sometimes people will follow. Well, let me be a business coach, or let me be a teacher because this one's doing it. What is it? In entrepreneurship, it's really focusing on passion. What is it that you love? That you, if you couldn't even make money off of it, that you absolutely love. So after we go through our mindset part of it, we go into thinking about your passion. There was one distinct experience I remember in our passion section was is a woman who always wanted to be a race car driver. Okay, everybody's writing down, their passions. And she was literally in tears about this. And I know this girl, and I'm looking at her, and she's a lawyer, and I said to myself, I never knew. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is crazy. In a good way crazy, because I just would have never thought. She said, the only reason why I did it is because I just didn't think it would be accepted. Being a lawyer just seems prestigious, it's accepted. And I said, wow. So that's just an example of kind of the revelations people have, and we were getting people emotional. And again, women felt like they could do this in this conference.
Because they're surrounded by other women who are also being vulnerable.
Right. So identifying your passion. And then I would say the next part of it is, how can you be visible? How can you be visible? How do people even know that you're starting this business? So a lot of people think of, Facebook as the first thing, and I'm a Facebook feed, if I can say that. I'm on Facebook every day. But Facebook is just so important, along with just other social media. It allows you to be seen. But sometimes people will just set up, Jen, that Facebook page or that Twitter page and just let it sit. You can't do that. You have to actively engage in it. Because that really is where your audience may be. And these are free tools that sometimes people don't realize are at their disposal. So use social media to allow you to have a presence, but again, you have to constantly engage in it.
And I would add to that, tell people about it.
Yes.
I feel as though if you send it out to the universe does not to be hokey pokey, but like the universe really hears it and begins to send you, whether it's referrals or connections, or once you start talking about it and you surround yourself with the believers that believe in your passion, because that's number 2 for you. You've set your mindset, you've got your passion, and now you're really sharing it and engaging with that audience. I feel like something happens, like something in the world kind of aligns for you and begins to help you to make it happen.
Yeah, and I would say the last one, which is so important in the marketplace, is how can you be distinct? And sometimes we spend so much time maybe spending money on these companies to do all the nice stationery. I've got, for example, billboards, things like that, but I'm not the only lawyer that's out there. There's tons of them. What makes me different? And again, sometimes people will pay money to get a branding company, or they'll do these nice logos. And all that stuff is all well and good. But sometimes you have to listen to what people say about you, because they can tell you what's different. And so when I went about branding my own law firm, I did just that. I did the logos, I did all of that, but I listened to what people told me and I capitalized it. So when people said, I like this, they come in all females, I says, you know what? Let me put that on a billboard. Let me put that on a billboard. Then they would say, you know what? You're very aggressive. And I said, I came to you because you were aggressive. They call me the pit bull, which is so funny.
I love that.
I know I don't come across as a pit bull, but I'm very, very aggressive when it comes to my clients, because deep down inside I care about what they're going through, and they want somebody to fight for them. So I capitalized on that, put that on a billboard.
How did you ask people though? I mean, did you just like Facebook question or like one-on-one questions? How do you go about doing that?
Well, sometimes people will come out and honestly say it. So like in a consultation, for example, I will always ask how they got to me, because that allows me to know what marketing tool is working. And sometimes they'll say Facebook, sometimes they'll say, a friend, referral or something, or the billboards or something like that. And I say, great, good to know that that's working, because I spent a lot of money on that. So that's one way. And then sometimes they'll just kind of spill out, well, my friend said you worked on her case and she said you were absolutely aggressive. So that's a lot of the ways that it will come in. But then I just started to ask too. Or another thing is, as I mentioned, some clients come to me from other attorneys because they fired their other attorney.
Right.
And they oftentimes will tell me why they came. Because if they fired their attorney, there's something maybe about me that they were attracted to or that they read, and they found it to be different. So they said, I read that you were aggressive, and my attorney's just not aggressive enough, and I want to go with you.
Yeah.
Or, I feel more comfortable with an all-female law firm. Maybe they just will understand me a little bit better.
Yeah.
So again, it's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Also being African-American woman, that is something that I definitely capitalized on, and not in that I was just going to serve African-American clients, but just the fact that I have a very diverse team.
Yeah.
From me being African-American. We have 2 Spanish paralegals. We have an attorney from Albania. We have an attorney from Brazil. So that was something that was very important to me, because sometimes people just gravitate to people that,
of course, that they look like,
or
they
they can
like,
speak.
or they
And
can
so
speak to.
that was just so huge.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to really attract a diverse clientele, which was always my goal, always my dream, to be able to do that, and everyone to feel comfortable coming to my firm.
Well, you're living your dream and you're sharing your dream, which is really inspiring. Thank you for creating something that is so meaningful, and then being able to tell people about it in a way that they can understand, and then embody that in their own lives too. When we come back, we are going to be talking about a very near and dear experience that Nicole is going to be a part of, called the Metro West Conference for Women, which is coming up on September 20th. So when we come back, she's going to share with us a little bit about what she might be talking about. So stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back to Woman2Woman today. Today we're talking with Nicole Bluefort, who is an entrepreneur and a legal expert. So Nicole, you are one of the panelists at the Metro West Conference for Women, which is coming up on September 20th.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us. We have a whole host of women. You're on a panel of 3 experts. Can you give us an idea of why should people come and visit your panel?
Well, I'm going to be touching upon in more greater detail, Jen, a lot of the topics that we discussed today. Some of the basics to become a very successful entrepreneur. One of the things that we talked about today is obviously mindset, so I'll be kind of going through how important it is to make sure that you are in that frame of mind, because sometimes, and I'm sure the conference is going to attract all sorts of women. Maybe you are in a position like I was, unemployed, and you're just trying to kind of figure it out. Or maybe you're in that corporate setting and you just were waiting to bust out of it and just want to start your own thing. And I'll be kind of gearing my conversation to all those kind of women, because everybody's just in a different kind of place, and really talking about what it means to have in your mind that you are a CEO, that you are in fact a businesswoman before you become a businesswoman. One of the things that we actually didn't talk about today that I'm going to be kind of giving strategies on, where I think a lot of entrepreneurs, or many entrepreneurs, mess up, is not minimizing expenses. Sometimes we kind of are focused on how we look, as opposed to just knowing that we are good enough in terms of what we can provide. So let me give you a really great example. Now I have fancy smancy locations of 60 State Street in Boston and my nice office location in LYNN, but I didn't start that way. You have to start with what you can afford. I was in this nice kind of office share at the beginning, and I kind of was just not feeling all that great, because sometimes people are like, well, I don't know how well you're going to do in this kind of place because it's just not your 60 State Street yet, or all this. And I says, I know that people are going to come to me from me. And that's the kind of things that I want to make sure that people focus on. Focus on just making expenses on what you actually need. Don't go, spending $1,000 in rent if you don't have that revenue yet. What are the basic things that you need?
Yeah.
I'll go over again, presence, and it's just not about, social media. There's other ways that you can build a presence too. It can be getting on shows like this. It can be doing panels. I did a nice little estate planning brunch with some women in Brockton, where I got an opportunity to just talk to women about how to prepare for retirement and how to actually, whether or not they need wills or trust or things like that. And I'm going to be talking about that among, many other things.
That's great. That's perfect. That platform was made for women like you who are making it happen and starting out, at a level that you can bite off and then working your way to more success and more success. Yeah, the conference was created and is still run out of a basement. So that's
you have to start somewhere.
You gotta start somewhere. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please remember to follow, like, and subscribe to Woman2Woman Today on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube so you don't miss a show. Thanks to the entire team at Access Framingham, especially Shavarsh Morrissey, our producer, and Jess Friswell, our assistant producer. I'm Jem Maceda, your host of Woman2Woman Today. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time, where we hope to inspire you.